Today's webinar is Online Mapping Tools with Natural Resource Professional. This is part 4. And today is presented by James Yoik. He's with North Carolina State University, and he's Forestry Extension Associate. And today we'll cover many things, including Google Earth basics, in creating and editing data, importing sources of data such as shapefiles, and even looking at third-party software like EasyAcreage software. So I'll pass it over to James. Well, let me tell you what, before we do that, I do need to let you know that this session is made possible through Forestry and Natural Resources webinars. This is a partnership with myself, Eric Taylor, and I just took a new role with Texas A&M Forest Service, but also with Bill Hubbard. He's our Southern Region Extension Forestry, and Bob Barton with North Carolina State Cooperative Extension. So with that being said, James, I'll pass it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Again, it's a pleasure being here and working with you all. And I should have taken a quick look at that first slide, because it's going to be a little bit different from what that first slide said in terms of some of the content that we're going to be covering. But I'm sure it's going to be really good information for you all, and we'll get right to it. This is Leveraging the Power of Google Earth Part 2. It's the last of our 4-part series, and but by no means think this is the end. You always have the opportunity to call me and get more specific information. You could always refer back to these webinars too, because we're going to be doing lots of clicks in Google Earth and moving around pretty quickly. And we want to make sure that this is all going to be archived, so you can rest assured that you can go back and review it as well. We're going to be taking a look at mostly in North Carolina for our data today, and what we will take a quick look at is we'll review the Google Earth layout, the tools and the sidebar information on it. Revisit project creation. We started that last week. We're going to continue with that. Start a project from scratch, how you create your data and edit it. We'll take a look at getting information into Google Earth through the form of being able to do these things called image overlays. A lot of times people don't have property boundaries, but they would like to be able to pull in an image that maybe has their property boundaries on it, and then they could digitize that off of it. So we'll take a look at how that's set up as well. We'll take a look at the third-party software. I used to use EasyAcreage, and it's a good set of software. There's also a free third-party software by Cooperative Extension Service of the University of New Hampshire. We'll take a look at how that one works today. We'll spend a couple of minutes looking at GPS input. It's very simple, and I'll walk you through how that's all done. And the last thing I want to do is to go over some other forms of free data that's out there. There's a lot of information that folks have been providing through their own web servers, and basically you can just get the link to that web server, open it up in Google Earth, and you have access to their data. So we'll take a look at soils information, which is a national database, and then we'll also take a look at some aerial photography and some hydrography, which is, in this case, it's just simply a North Carolina data set. But it gives you an idea how that works. So good stuff ahead here. So I'm going to this is our last slide. I'm going to just jump right into Google Earth at this point, and I'm going to go into application sharing. And for those of you who have participated in this in the past, let me go ahead and click share. There we go. You realize that there's a certain amount of screen time it takes for the screen to refresh. So again, as you can see, it's going relatively slowly, and that's a function, unfortunately, of how Collaborate sends the information out to you. I've opened up Google Earth, and we went through last time how to go ahead and download that and some of the basics of it. And I've zoomed in on an area. In this case, it happens to be in Transylvania County in North Carolina. We'll just do a quick review of some of the items that we have here in Google Earth. First is some of the navigational tools, and we'll wait for the refresh to take place. Up here in the upper right-hand corner, this moves you north, south, east, and west. This moves you, basically it tips the screen for you so that you can get the oblique images, and this zooms you in and out. One thing we didn't talk about was the street view, and let's take a look and see if that'll work. When you click on the little man for street view, it's just like the one in Google Maps. As soon as you click on it, we'll give it a second here. What it does, I clicked on the location on the road, and it only works primarily with road systems because it is the street view. Basically what it does is it allows you to get a view of a 360 view around that particular point. Okay, so the Google Earth people, they have a van that drives all around. It has this 360-degree camera on it, and they take photos all around the up and down some of the major highways. So I'm just grabbing this with my mouse, and I'm spinning it just so you get a view, and it'll take a second again for it to refresh. But now what the thing that you want to be aware of is when you do click on the street view, all of a sudden a whole bunch of blue lines show up on your roads. Those roads that are colored in blue have the photographs associated with them. If you click on the road that's not in blue, then you won't see any of the photographs. It'll just bring you right down to the road there, place you on the road, but you won't be able to see these 360-degree images. So that's kind of neat, you know. Again, like I said, if I'm working with a landowner and they give me their address, I can type it in over here in the search window and click on it, and it will automatically bring me to their location. And if I have street view access, I could actually look at the property both as an aerial photograph and then also from the street view. So very handy tool. To get out of it, you just simply click on Exit Street View up here in the upper right-hand corner. It brings you back to, in this case, it threw me into an oblique image here. Again, a couple of navigational tools here. I'm going to set this to north up at the top. If I want to get this in strictly an aerial view, I just grab it with the roller bar on my mouse, and now I'm pushing it forward, and that gets me back up to an aerial view. So the roller bar on your mouse allows you to tip it and get it as a orthogonal aerial view as well. And and then your left mouse button allows you to drag it, the image left and right, okay? And the right mouse button provides a zoom in and a zoom out, okay? So between all that, you can move around pretty nicely in Google Earth. Again, at the bottom, it gives you the imagery date. It gives you the coordinates. I happen to be in UTM coordinates right now, and I can switch that over to lat longs if I prefer to see it in that format. It gives me the elevation. That is the ground elevation, and then the eye altitude, and that is how high I am above the ground. Okay, so you have two pieces of information for altitude and elevation. Scale bar is over here. That can be turned on and off under View, the View menu. Okay. These are really the very important tools here, and primarily these 3 or 4 right here really do most of the work. This one allows me to add a place marker. This one allows me to add a polygon. This one allows me to add a path. And this one, that image overlay that I mentioned, that's how you access that. Okay. This tool right here does the historical imagery that allows you to go back in time and take a look at previous photography, whatever Google happens to have on at hand for that particular location. You can set the sun across the landscape and set the time of day so you can see how the shadows affect things. This is a measuring tool that only allows you to measure, at this point, allows you to measure lines and pathways, and no acreage with that. Okay. The other very important thing that you need to be aware of up in the tools, there's two things, is the and the menu items here. I mean, under File, this is where you actually save your information. Save Place As and Save My Places are two very important things. We'll get back to that as we're creating the project. And then also Tools. Under Tools Options, a very important thing for you to be aware of is how you can set your elevational exaggeration. Okay, and you can set it from 0.01 to 3. Okay, and a lot of this other stuff is pretty intuitive. You just spend some time moving around through there, and you get a feel for how things are working. A lot of this stuff, like the graphics mode, you don't have to really worry about too much. So, okay, so creating a project. I'm going to go. I've got a little marker here in an area that I've chosen that I want to create a project for. And let's just say this is my property. I'm going to, for the sake of ease, I'm going to make it a kind of a rectangular property, so I don't have to spend a whole lot of time digitizing here. But here we got a variety of land uses here. We got forested, looks like mostly pine, maybe mixed pine hardwoods. Got some residential in here, and then some agricultural areas as well. So to create a project, you start off in My Places, okay? And what I usually do is I'll just go ahead and highlight My Places, do a right mouse click on that, and go Add Folder. I like to keep my projects in their own separate folders. So I'll create a folder first, and I'll just call this Project 1. And I could type in a description for it and all that. Oh, by the way, I did want to mention in the what Eric had mentioned to you, and if you had joined us last time, you were provided a document called Google Earth Basics, and all the stuff I'm going to be covering today is outlined in Google Basics document. Okay. And I tried to make it with lots of pictures and arrows, and tried to make it pretty easy to use. The revisiting the tools and the sidebar items was primarily on pages 1 and 2. This whole section right here in creating the project is the pages 3 through 5 of that. So I've created a folder, and I'm going to just drag it up to the top up here, so it sits at the top of my list. And first thing I'm going to do is going to create the parcel boundary. I'm just assuming at this point in time that I know what my parcel boundary looks like. Okay, that's going to be a polygon, obviously. So in this case, I clicked Add Polygon. Now I could have gone up here and clicked that, but it may not have actually stored it in my folder, depending on what was highlighted over here in My Places. By actually highlighting Project 1, right mouse clicking it and going Add Polygon, it's going to stick that polygon inside that folder. So I'll just call it Parcel, and it's ready for me to start digitizing. First thing I want to do before I start adding this is check out the style and color. By default, it usually sets it to filled and outlined. If it's filled, I don't want it to be filled because it starts covering up the image. So what I usually do is set it to outlined. You could fill it and then set the opacity, make it to like 50% or 25%. That would make it somewhat transparent. But still, I like to just see the image underneath, see what I'm working with. So it's just outlined, and the line is, in this case, is going to be blue, and I've made it relatively thick. Okay, and again, I could set the opacity on the lines as well. So I'm ready to start clicking. Notice when I move into my map, I have a crosshairs, And as I start clicking away, I'm just going to go down to here. It starts building my polygon. And we'll bring it to right about here. And so there it is. There's my property boundary. And again, you know, in this case, I happen to know that's my property boundary, so that's what I'm working with. And when I get it the way I like, I click OK. Right? But what if I go back and go, oh, gee, I really would like to move this corner up here as soon as it refreshes for you. I really would like to move this corner so that it gets right on the road edge there, okay? Well, I can go back to the parcel, right mouse click it, and go to the properties window. And that was the original properties window when I created it. That's what opens up. That means I'm in edit mode with it. Now I can move my cursor over that corner until I get the little finger there, okay, a little finger pointing. And that means I'm sitting on top of the vertex. It means I can grab it with my mouse and drag it and move it. Okay, so that allows you to tailor all your vertices. You can zoom in and then drag them and move them right exactly where you want them to go. When you get everything the way you like it, you could also delete it too. And so, you know, if I hit delete now, it'll delete that, and then I can create a new vertice and continue on with it. So, and I give you all those instructions in that handout. You know how you go about doing that. So I get it the way I like, and it saves it. I've just double-clicked on parcel, and it just zooms me to the extent of that parcel. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create another polygon. I'm going to make this the ag area. I'll just say I'll just call it ag fields. Click OK, and oops, I clicked OK. It stored it without any data in it. So I right mouse clicked it, click on properties, puts it back into edit mode, and I'm ready to click away on it. And again, when I'm all done with this, I could zoom in and have this sit right on top of the other lines that I put in there. Now, those of you who use ArcGIS, this is where you cringe a little bit because it does have no snapping ability like ArcGIS does. You have to manually go in there and do this. But for a poor man's GIS, it's not bad. Okay, so I'm going to change the color of that. I'll make it yellow. And so now I have my ag fields, and I can continue on, okay, with this. So I'll do one more. I'm going to add another polygon. I'll just call it white pine. Click on the white pine. Don't click OK yet. So. And it's going kind of fast, so we can get through this pretty quick. And again, I could zoom in and tailor these things a little bit so that they're where they need to go and all that good stuff. And so you can spend as much or as little amount of time working on this as you want. So I'll click OK. And it's a little off, but that's okay. That's, you know, for you to practice with when you are doing this on your own. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom back out to the parcel area. And for white pine, I'm going to go ahead and make that. I just right mouse clicked it, hit properties. I'm going to make that kind of a light green. Okay, and I could start typing in information as well. Like for the white pine, if I hit right mouse click it and go back down to properties. Under the description here, I can go planted, 1975, and I may or may not know the acreage. If I know it, I could type that in. I could type in things like the site index, all this good information that helps me to better understand that particular management unit. Let's say it's 80, 87, and all that good stuff. So when I click on it, it gives me that information. Pops up along with it. All right. To do a line feature, let's say a road system, I do a right mouse click on project again, go add, and this time I'll do a path, and I just go ahead and click my road. A couple of pieces of information that it gives me is as I'm doing it, it actually gives me measurements, tells me how long that road is. Okay, I could change the style and color, of course, of that. I'll make that kind of a maroon. I'll make it really thick. So you get the idea. Okay, and then the point. Any point features I want to add to this. Oh, I didn't name that, did I? I need to go back to properties and give it a name called, I'll just say road. Okay, so then the last thing is doing inputting point features, and that they call those place markers. And when it just throws it out there. It wants me to place it where I want it to go. Let's say for that house, and under the right next to the name, which I'm going to call house, I can change what the place marker icon looks like. There's a little button right there with a picture of a thumbtack on it, and opening that up gives me all this options of all these different icons. Okay, and so that's stored. All right. I may have another one here. I'm going to stick one in here. I'm going to call it bridge. Oops. Go add place mark. We'll just call it bridge. And there may be a bridge down here that I'll just make it a yellow marker. Put it down here on the river and call it good. Okay. So that's your basic way of getting data into Google Earth. When it's all said and done, I basically want to save everything. So I would do a right mouse click on project, and I would go save place as. And what that does is it saves it either as a KMZ, or I could save it as a KML. I'm going to save it as a KML. And make sure it goes where you want it to. You set the right directory. I'm going to stick it in Part 4 files and click Save. So now that's saved. I could email that KML to my friend now, and they can open it up, and it'll have all the color settings, all the information that I've edited that data with, all included with it. So really nice information. Another thing I want to do is go to File, and this is very important too, is go to Save, Save My Places. Okay, and what that does is it stores this project inside Google Earth. So every time I open up Google Earth, Project 1 will open up with it. Okay, so really good stuff to have access to. All right. I had mentioned before that some county mapping sites, websites, actually provide KML files for you. That would be a real benefit if you are trying to create a parcel map and you don't actually know where the parcel lies on the ground. So here's a company that actually has created a number of county GIS map sites for the counties to keep track of their taxes and all that. Transylvania County was the one I was going to use today, but turns out their site, within the last 15 minutes before class, they closed their site for maintenance. So unfortunately, I can't use them because I had a couple of good spots picked out. But I'll just pick I'll pick Rutherford County, just so you can kind of see how this works. So this, fortunately, we've got about 10 counties in North Carolina that this particular company has built the websites for. So I click here to enter, and I'm just going to zoom in on any old place because it's just going to simply be an example. And let it refresh. Okay, so you see these property boundaries here. I'm going to turn the layers on so I can actually see the aerial imagery, which is over here on the left, and it'll turn on the aerial imagery. You can see that coming up. What is really neat about this website is, if I click on the identify features, and we had talked about that a couple of episodes ago. I was talking about how county websites are set up, and identify features allows you to get basic information about that property. So I clicked on the eye up there for identify, and now I clicked on a parcel, zooms me in on that parcel, and lo and behold, on the right-hand side, and I know it might be really difficult for you to be able to read that, but it says, view in Google Earth, download KML. Whoa, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that, and you may not be able to see it. I'm trying to resize my window so you can, oops, I just lost it. Okay, come on. Down here, it loaded up the KML. Okay, you'll see it as soon as it refreshes. So it's downloaded that KML of that parcel for me. Pretty slick. Okay, and as soon as it refreshes, I'll double click on it and open it up. It recognizes, my computer recognizes that KML files are opened in Google Earth. So when I double click on it, it throws me back into Google Earth, pulls in that file, and zooms me smack dab centered on it. And as soon as it refreshes, you'll see what I'm talking about here. So talk about an easy way of getting your parcel data in. Now, I had mentioned to you all that you should contact your county mapping office, and if they're based on if their map site is based on using any kind of ESRI product like ArcMap, they can convert their files to a KML for you, and it literally takes a minute to do. I mean, it's very, very simple for them to do. So there's the parcel, and when I click on it, lo and behold, all that database information comes along with it. That's all in the properties window. Okay, so now notice it stored it under temporary places. If I want to keep it, then I just simply drag it up to my places. I can create a folder and stick that in the folder, and I could rename this under properties, under the right parcel name, and I'm ready to go with it. Very, very slick. All right. However, not all county map sites are that slick. All right, unfortunately. So another option that you have is, okay, I've got this property boundary. I can clearly see it. I've switched back to the county website again, so y'all can get a kind of an idea of what I'm going to be doing here. Is I can clearly see the property boundary here is in blue. I have, and assume that I have no way of converting it to a KML. Right? The other option, and everybody has this option, is to be able to go and use their little snipping tool. Okay, and I explained to you how to access that. If you have trouble accessing it, let me know, and I can give me a call and we can walk through it. I'm going to do a new. Oh, actually, I'm ready to go. So basically, what I do is I draw a box around that. Okay, and I'm going to save it. And it's going to be called Capture. I'm actually not going to use this one. I'm going to use one in Transylvania County. Well, let me see. No, actually, I could use this one. This will work fine. So I'll call it Rutherford. All right. So click on Save. So what it's done is it's captured that image and it's saved it as a JPEG file on my computer. All right. I'm going to close the snipping tool up. I'm all done with the county website. I'm back in Google Earth now. And I'm going to leave this on in the background just so you can see. I'm going to let it refresh here. I'm going to change its color to yellow so it's different from what the image looks like. So give it a second. It'll redraw with the boundary in yellow. Here it comes. Okay. So there's the boundary that I downloaded. Okay. So that's the KML file. I'm going to do a new thing called an image overlay. All right. And what it's going to do is it's going to pull in that JPEG that I just created. All right. And this is all done on page 10. Okay. I'll walk you through all the steps on how to do this. So I'm clicking on I'm just clicking on My Places, Add Image Overlay. Okay, I can access it there. I could also access it up at that tool right there. That's the Image Overlay tool button. All right. What it does, you can all see that I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so you can, and it'll take a second to refresh here. What it's done is it creates this box where it wants to dump that image. It's going to overlay that image right on top of the property boundary. I mean, right on top of where I am on Google Earth. And then I can resize that image to get it to fit Google Earth. Okay, I've missed one step here, and it's actually outlined on page 10. Typically, what I do before I do this is I go up into Tools and I take out all vertical elevations so that I'm looking at a completely flat map. It tends to work better. You can line things up easier that way. In this case, I'm just not going to do it because I'm just demoing. But it specifies that in the instructions on the Google Earth Basics. So I'll just call this aerial. And what it's looking for is wants me to load up an image. Okay. So there's the Rutherford image that I just captured from the county website. Now notice what it has done. Whoops, didn't want to do that. We'll give it a second to refresh here. What it's done is it's dumped that image inside those boundaries, those green boundaries. Okay. Well, it's a little difficult to see how to line it up because it's sitting on top of the other image. And so what they provide you, okay, give it just one more second. Here we go. So you can see the image that I've added is just sitting on top of the Google Earth aerial photography. What I could do is go to this little slider and I can make it somewhat transparent. And once it refreshes, you can clearly see the other image underneath. And so now we could see the yellow boundary, which, you know, of course, you're not going to have that normally. You'll have to line it up to things like streets and houses and those sorts of things. But what this allows, in my case, it allows me to have the actual boundaries that I can line it up to. So the corner allows you to grab the corners and resize it both in length and direction. And I'm doing this kind of fast, and I know it's not going to refresh real good, but I'm going to do this so that it more or less lines up, and then you can kind of see the results. But all I'm doing is I'm grabbing the corners. Okay, that does width and length. The sides obviously do either, in this case, length, and this does width. The center allows you to just grab it and drag it, so I can move it around. Okay, and this right here allows you to turn it, to rotate it a little bit. In some cases, that's necessary. So that allows you to do move it in all three different ways to get it to line up exactly the way you want it to. So once it's set, I can go ahead and turn the opacity back all up to 100% again and click OK. So there it is. What I have now is an aerial photograph with the parcel boundary on top of it, right? What that allows me to do now is to go ahead and create a project and start digitizing the parcel boundary. So I'm converting that to a KML. That is, if you have no other option than to go ahead and download a JPEG that's got the property boundary on top of it, that is the way you get that information in there. So it's a really good thing to have access to in a pinch. That you're much better off, obviously, getting somebody to convert a shapefile for you, or if you're lucky enough to have a county map website that does the KML conversion for you, then you're all set. But again, not everybody does that. So really good way of getting information in. Okay. Notice that the aerial overlay has a slightly different icon, okay, than a polygon and a line and a point. So I could take this if I want to. I could stick that right in the project folder if that happened to be the project I was working on. And when I go to save that folder and save it as a KML or save it as in my places, anytime I save it, it's going to be oriented and sized exactly the way it should be. So every time I open that up, it comes back the way it's supposed to be. Very, very handy tool. So that never goes away, fortunately. All right, so that's an image overlay. I'm going to go back to my original project, which is, again, I was doing all this in Transylvania County, so I'm going to go back to my parcel in Transylvania County. And let's say I'm at the point now where I would like to start getting some more information, particularly about the acreage of it. Okay. Again, the free version of Google Earth does not provide acreage estimates for you. There are a number of different acreage estimate tools out there. EasyAcreage is one that I promoted for a number of years, and it works really well. And I believe I've kept that in the Google Basics handout. But on pages, let's see, where do I got that? Pages 6 through 8, I provide you with this other free service that's online, and it works really nice. And we're going to go explore that right now. So I've saved this project. I'm going to take the aerial out. I don't want. And just to make sure, I'm going to go ahead and resave this project. So I go Save Place As, and it's called Project 1 KML. I'm going to replace it, just to make sure. Okay, I got everything the way I want it. Now I'm going to keep Google Earth open in the background. There's no need for me to turn it off. I'm going to go into just out to Chrome and let Chrome refresh here. So I'm on the internet now, and I've kept this as a bookmark. It's called KML Tools Project, and you'll see the link to it. It's or the URL. It's called extension unh.edu KML Tools. And again, I give you that link in that document. So the University of New Hampshire Cooperative Extension created a number of tools. Acreage calculation is one of the important ones. You could also do things like stream buffers. And actually, if you're a forester and you want to create cruise points, you can create either regularly spaced or random grid points within the polygon and set it to your criteria. So obviously made by and for foresters. So the first thing we want to do is open up the KML file. And remember, in that KML file, we've got like 3 polygons stored, a road and 2 points. All right. So I'm going to go find that KML. And this is it, Project 1 KML. Click on Open. And you see that's right there under Choose File. And this is a kind of a quirky thing, but I guess it's important. It won't run unless you type in a description. So I'll just call it Project 1. Okay. So that's a requirement. And one thing that's important to note is that it does not do this on KMZ files. So when you go to save your do the save place as, make sure it's stored as a KML file. Right? So hit submit, and what it does is here's the current file, Project 1. Here's the area, the 3 polygons that I have under the polygon section. There's the parcel. There's the ag fields and the white pine. For area, I'll convert that to acres, and then click. I'm going to convert them all to acres real quick before I hit. Whoops. Yeah. So I got acres set for all these, and then I click on area. And what it does is it actually creates a brand new KML. It stores it. It opens up Google Maps, and it dumps it onto Google Maps there for you with the calculated acreage. Okay, so I could either take this number, copy it, go back into Google Earth, go under parcel, wait for that to load up. We're waiting for it to come around here. Here it comes. Okay, so I right mouse click on parcel and go to properties and then just paste it in there. So there's the acreage, okay? And I could type that in. Or the other option is, now I'm back in the KML tools here. Right up here at the top of that Google Maps window is a little download button. And so if I don't mind having an exactly the same sized KML file in Google Earth, I can go ahead and double click or just click that once. You notice it's stored it there. It's a KML. If I double click it, it opens up Google Earth and places that parcel right in there for you. Close that up. Okay, and give it a second to come around here. There it comes. So there's the new parcel. And it actually stores it. It loads it into the temporary places. Of course, I can right mouse click it, give it a new name, change the colors, and drag it up into Project 1. And the thing that's nice about this is that when I open up the property windows, somewhere in there, it has the there it is. It gives you the acreage calculated. Okay, so So that's pretty slick. Very nice thing to be able to have. So that's how this works. It's a really nice tool, and again, to do it for ag fields, I would click area, and it would pull out that, put it in Google Maps, and I either copy and paste the acreage, or I just take the whole KML and load it into Google Earth. Okay, same for the white pines, and then it has other options as well. Here's where you can do some buffering. So if you want to do some buffering on these line features, allows me to do some buffering. So let's say I have streams and creeks and I want to build 50-foot buffers around them. That will build that for me, and I can pull that KML directly into Google Earth with my buffers. And we're not going to spend time with this, but here's where you can create your cruise points. So go out there if you're a forester and you want to get a nice free tool that does this stuff really nicely for you. That's where you go. Okay, I promised some of you as well last time that we would take a quick look at doing some GPS data. And I've got plenty of time to do that. It only takes a minute. So I'm going to minimize project 1, and because I'm done working with that one, I'm going to go work on another project here. Here's a project for our latest North Carolina Tree Farmer of the Year. He and his wife held the annual meeting for North Carolina Tree Farm, and I was doing some nature interpretation and some nature environmental education for the kids that came to that. So one of the things we were doing was some GPS work. So what we're going to do is we're going to fly over to the eastern part of North Carolina and take a look at this beautiful tract of land. What I did is I created a little, it was like an orienteering sort of thing where they use the GPS to figure out, find points that I created. So I'm just going to show you really quickly how you can load up GPS data on it. I used the Garmin Oregon to collect the data, and all the new GPS equipment has direct links to your computer and basically gets set up as a USB port onto your computer. When you do that, in the case of my Garmin, when I connect my Garmin to the computer, it essentially acts like a great big thumb drive. I mean, it just goes into data acquisition or data access mode, and so I can go in my file manager and I can open up files right off of the Garmin, and it just acts as another drive on my computer. Very neat. The Garmin and all new GPS receivers tend to store data in a new format that's called GPX. Okay, and I explain how to do this on page 15 in the handout. How you add data to Google Earth, and it has to be in a GPX well, it doesn't have to be in the GPX format, but it doesn't hurt. So it's just as simple as going to File, Open, and I'm going to change it from images, in this case, to, there's Google Earth files, there's images, and then there's GPS data. So it can be GPX files, formats, or it could be any one of these other formats that you can load in. Okay, so I select that, and when I hooked up the Garmin to my computer, basically it gave me a Garmin drive. So I click on that. There's a folder in there called Garmin, and it may take you a little bit of time to figure out where these files are stored, but the GPX files are stored in a folder called, obviously, GPX. So here's the file of waypoints I've created called BATS1, and I select it, I open it, and Google Earth, if it was a line or an area, did it want me to connect these as tracks? These are just simple points, so it's not going to do any of that, but you would leave these checked if you wanted to have all your points connected for lines and areas. And so I hit OK, and there's my 4 points. Okay, each one of them has a basically some information associated with them. Should give the coordinates. I'm not sure why it's not doing that right now, but basically what I could do at this point is I could take this folder, which it opened up in the temporary places. I could drag that to the BATS property, and when I go to save places, it's going to be stored in there. Okay, so that's how you get GPS data into Google Earth. It's just as simple as opening up a file. Now, how you get GPS data off of Google Earth and onto a GPS receiver is a little more tricky. They don't have a direct way of loading GPS data onto or KML files directly onto a GPS receiver. In that handout, Google Earth Basics, I walk you through the steps of doing that. That requires the use of a third-party software. The one I recommend is something called GPS Babel, and it converts any format into a GPS compatible format that you could load up onto your GPS receiver. And I walk you through those. I'm not going to do that today. We don't have time, but I want you to see at least you're out collecting data and you want to get it into Google Earth. It's just that simple. The last thing I wanted to cover today, I've got a couple more minutes to do this, is to introduce you to some opportunities you may have depending on where you are and how set up your state is, or to be able to access web server information. And I'll walk you through this for a couple of examples starting on, it's all on page 9 in that document. And I've already stored them here, so I'm not going to go through the process of doing it. If you're having trouble interpreting my directions how to do it, by all means give me a call. I can walk you through it. But here's the result of this. I called it NC1 map layers. That's not entirely true. I think these three I got from NC1 map, and this one comes from UC Davis. It's actually a national soil map. It's all the soils across the United States by soil series. And it's called the Soil Web. All right, so you go out, you download that, and what you end up doing is you're downloading. Notice the icon here. It's a little bit different. It's got a folder, but it's linked to the network. Okay, you're not downloading every soil in the world and loading it onto your computer. You're downloading a link that brings you out to their web server so that you can see that information. So let's take a look and see what's on this property. You turn it on, and boom, there's all the soils for your area. So it colors it in yellow, so you might be you might be better off changing some of your other background or your parcel colors and stuff like that to something that's a little more visible against yellow. And I'm going to make this really fat. So there's the soils that are inside that particular little tract of land. Very handy. So if I click on it, it gives you just scads of information about that particular soil. So this is a Gritney sandy loam. If I click on that link, notice that's a link there. Oh wait, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead of y'all. Got too excited over it. Let that load up there. So it gives you basic information about the soils, and then it actually has a link that will bring you out to UC Davis that provides you a lot more information about that particular soil. So that's really incredibly handy information to have at your fingertips. I'm going to minimize the soil web one. I'm going to turn it off so it doesn't get too confusing. Another piece of information, so that's a national one. So anywhere across the country you could download that and you have that information. Another one that I downloaded is the North Carolina hydrography, and I got that from a product we have in North Carolina called NC1 Maps. And so I turn that on, and let me see. It doesn't. May have to zoom out a little bit for it to turn on. But basically, what it will do is it'll show you all the streams and Doesn't seem to be working real well there. Interesting. Yeah. Well, when it does, it does work, and so I just went. There we go. All right. So give it a second. You'll see the blue lines for the streams that's turned on. So again, I walk you through how to get that. Now, one thing Google Earth does not provide is stream information, and so it's a lot of times you might want to digitize your streams, but you can't really tell where they are. If you have this background layer, you can turn on. You can digitize the streams on your property right over top of it. So that's another nice piece of information to have. North Carolina also keeps the latest photo imagery for the whole state out there on NC1 Maps, and there's a link to that as well. I'm not going to turn that on and off, but in this case it happens to be 2010. So Google Earth, as you move across North Carolina, its imagery may change from year to year depending on what the latest is that they have. So if you want to see the whole state in the same year of imagery, that's a good one you could turn on and off. So I guess that gives me about three minutes here. I'm going to jump back to Blackboard, and I'm going to leave it open for some questions here.
James, we had a couple of questions. Adam asked a question that you just touched on briefly. He says, I had a question about the date listed. It seems that this may not be the actual imagery date, as I've looked at aerial images that clearly was not taken as late as the date shows. Can you clarify whether that date that's listed down at the bottom corner there is...
Well, that's the imagery dates that they provide on the bottom there. That, as far as I know, that's the date that they are assigning to that image. If it's wrong, I don't know why it would be. I don't know what the answer for that would be, but that is the date that they're claiming that particular imagery was from. So
I've noticed that sometimes if I'm in a view and the particular piece I'm looking at may not be the majority of the screen, that there could be a different date because some imagery next door is newer.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I've noticed that. Let me, before we answer any more questions, because it is the top of the hour there, let me push out the link so everybody can continue on to the survey and CEU form. And this will pop up into a separate web browser. Rest assured, though, that you can still be able to hear us, and you can move it out of the way if you want to continue to interact. So you should see that pop up in your web browser there. Again, this is, if you have any problems with that link, because everybody may be trying to access it all at the same time, you can access it at any time after this webinar, and you can copy and paste the link, which I'll provide in the chat box for you, in case you want to copy it and come back to a later time and try to access that information. If for any reason you have problems with that, please just send me an email, and we'll take care of it right away for you. And my email is in the chat box below. Okay. I think that's all the housekeeping items at this time. Oh, one more thing is that this webinar has been recorded like all of its others. So if you want to go back and review some of the ones that you might have missed, you feel free to go to forestrywebinars.net and click on the previous webinars tab. You'll be able to access that. You'll be able to earn CEUs, and all the supplemental documentations are there available, including the PDF files that we talk about today. So that's a good opportunity for you to go back and get that if you missed it. Okay, James, I got another question here. I don't know if you're seeing the question boards. If you want to just pick them out yourself, that's fine.
Yeah, I was kind of scrolling up. I'm not sure how far up. Let me see. This looks like there are quite a few questions here.
I think the next one is from Jeff. Will erasing cookies cause Google to forget my computer when I log in again?
I don't think so, no. I erase cookies all the time, and no, because it stores a kind of a template project file that on your computer that knows, it tracks where all your files are and sends it out to Google Earth to their server, so it can, you know, can load up the main map. So no, not a problem.
Dave asked, have you used draftlogic.com before for computing acreages?
I've heard the term, heard of it. I've not used it, no. So yeah, again, whatever is convenient. I'll certainly go out and take a look at it, and if it seems like it's a good one, I'll more than happy to show folks about it.
I mentioned, you mentioned GPS Babel, and I put the link there for everybody, www.gpsbabel.org. And Jim asked, can you take polygons and lines from Google Earth and export them to GPS? And you can do that, I think, through GPS Babel, right?
Indeed. Yep.
Okay, very good. If you keep, Paul, I asked, if you keep your GPS data on your GPS unit, how do you prevent downloading multiple copies onto Google Earth whenever you hook the GPS unit in?
I believe every time you create a new track, if you're doing lines and areas, they're stored as separate GPX files, and or you can convert them to separate GPX files. The only thing that gets pulled into Google Earth is what you specify, so it's not going to automatically dump all the GPX files. It's just the ones you click on and load in.
You mentioned NC1 map, and I provide a link there as well. So if you're,
thank you.
If you guys are interested, there's a link there for you. And Pete asks, what's the difference between KML, and I can never say that right. I always want to call it KLM, and KMZ. What's the difference between those two?
And we discussed this last week in the intro, and there's really no difference between the two. One is just a compressed, the KMZ is like a zipped file. It's a compressed form of the KML file, and Google Earth can read both with no problem. Some other third-party software can only read the KML file, though.
Okay. I think that completes our webinar today.
Yeah.
Any other questions coming in? Any last minute wrap-ups you want to do, James?
No, again, I would like, you know, to invite you all to give me a call or send me an email if you have any questions. This is part of my job responsibilities, is to try to help get technology out to folks in a kind of an easy manner. So I'm more than happy to work with you all.
Well, this is really good. I apologize for the refresh rate being so slow, but I think that I probably have one of the slowest internet connections there is, and I was able to see what you're doing okay.
Oh, good.
Great, good stuff. If everybody would, please give James a round of applause. And this will conclude our webinar. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you all.
Again, if anybody has any problems with their CUUs, please feel free to contact me at my email, etaylor@pfs.tamu.edu. I just typed it again in the chat box. And I'll be closing this room in 1 minute.